Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this panel. I am very excited to chat to you all today. Just before we start today's panel, I just want to say to everyone watching this, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat box and we'll answer them as we go through. But for now, it's just going to be us three just having a chat and talking about the world of gaming and communities within that. So before I introduce today's show and what we're going to talk about, I'd like to introduce the guests. We have two fantastic guests who are alongside me. We have Roham and Sebastian. I'd love for you guys to very quickly maybe introduce yourselves, say hi to the audience before we start. So maybe we go Roham and then we go Sebastian.
Sure, I'm Roham Garagozlu, CEO of Dapper Labs, the company behind CryptoKitties, NBA Top Shot, and the Flow blockchain, which all of our projects are based on.
Fantastic. And Sebastian?
Hi, I'm Sebastian. I'm the CEO and co-founder of The Sandbox, a decentralized virtual gaming platform where players, creators can make 3D voxel asset and game experience and monetize them through the use of blockchain, non-fungible tokens, and our cryptocurrency Sand.
Fantastic, fantastic. Both amazing guests and both with a unique aspect of gaming and community. So very excited for this conversation. Cool. So I want to start off with an abstract or kind of a high level introduction of this conversation. So if you're not aware of the title of this talk, it is Gaming Communities of the Future. And so we will be talking about everything that is around gaming and communities and how this will evolve with this new blockchain computing platform shift and all of this cool stuff. So I just want to start off by saying, crypto and gaming has a lot in common, and some people may not know that, right? And there's a funny story that I always like to say, which is, arguably Ethereum as a computing platform wouldn't exist if it weren't for Vitalik and him playing World of Warcraft. So for those of you who don't know the backstory, I'm sure our panelists know exactly what I'm talking about here. But for those of you who don't, Vitalik was playing World of Warcraft back in 2017 to 2010. He loved the game. It was a fantastic game. But unfortunately, the game developer Blizzard removed what he calls the damage component from his beloved Warlock character, and he was unfortunately very angry about that and very upset, and that kind of, according to him, gave him the inspiration to start Ethereum and kind of kick off this revolution. So that being said, there's a lot of parallels between, what's going on in the gaming community and what's going on in crypto. And so I'm excited to chat about today's topic. So just a kind of general structure of the things that we're going to chat about in today's conversation. So we're going to cover, like I said, blockchain gaming communities and the incentives that are kind of in these communities, and how folks, how you're able to keep everyone aligned in terms of, creating a collaborative community. Then we're going to talk about, what perfect alignment is, because, there's a lot of thoughts around, what a perfect gaming community looks like, or what I guess what an ideal gaming community looks like when the incentives are aligned between gamers, developers and things like this. We're going to have a conversation around how we can achieve this. So we've done the intros, we've done the high level. So let's jump into the first topic. My first question is around gaming communities and how you see them right now and how you foresee them kind of in the future, right? I know I've spoken to Sebastian about this quite a lot, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts, and then maybe Roham, you can chip in and talk to us about that.
Right. Well, I like to say that essentially in the gaming industry, all the game developers, all the games are essentially behaving as closed walled garden economies where the players are more considered by the developer as just a one-way relationship where developers provide services, they provide some entertainment that the players can consume, usually for free in a free-to-play business model, but they can get a little bit enhanced user experience and potentially fun by consuming through in-app purchases, buying either virtual items or specific pass, etc., that will give them a slightly better experience. So in that one-way relationship between players and developers, essentially it's an economy called free-to-play that's fully supported only by a small portion of users who are spending like 1%, 3%, sometimes 5%, depending on the kind of games. And still the video game industry, which has 2.6 billion gamers, so it's been growing largely with free-to-play, and it represents over $160 billion industry as of late this year number. And everyone seems to be happy with that situation, except, except a few companies who've been really pushing for a new model, a more decentralized model where this could be much better, a much better relationship between the players and the game creators could exist. And this is a little bit the backstory of my own project, Sandbox. Like we started in 2012 developing a mobile game on iOS and Android, which has been downloaded over 40 million times, where all players could play with a lot of different 2D elements to create their own games and share them to an online gallery. But all that creativity, all that energy they spent, but it was centralized. So there was no way for us through the platform to offer an experience where the investment in time, the dedication they put, all the craft they did, they could actually take some potential return, reward for it, except into the virtual currency and the limits of the platform. So when we saw at the late of 2017, CryptoKitties being born and rising, and it immediately struck us with the potential of like, wow, not only players can own their digital assets, their virtual items turning into digital assets from other developers, but potentially if we combine that technology with user-generated content, we could create something like really strongly new, a new value offering where it's there is a value of what you create that you can take with you, that you can own finally, and you can monetize in many diverse ways in a much more open economy system where all your content could go outside of the platform where you created that content. And so, as such, you can monetize it in new ways. And as we evolve that idea, that concept of UGC combined to NFTs, we are now seeing communities, which we can say blockchain gaming communities, really getting deeply involved together with the developer, participating with the developers into the economy, the value accretion, and the promotion of the game that and platform they get engaged with. So I think it's bringing really an opportunity to set a new kind of relationship between all the parties that are involved with a game or a platform, and mutually benefited between the developer and the users, the players who are part of this community.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you mentioned there about, digital scarcity being the enabler of that. And, who better to speak to that than Roham, who obviously pioneered the popular game CryptoKitties. So maybe, Roham, do you have any views on what Sebastian just said there?
Yeah, for sure. And I think Sebastian hit the nail on the head. And, some of the things we talk about at Dapper Labs all the time is, communities have always existed and the communities exist digitally today. But every digital community, whether it's a game or Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, the users are users. They're subjects. They're not citizens. They don't have any rights inside the community that they participate in. When they buy stuff, they don't actually own it. They're being sort of granted it by the sort of whims of the rulers of that particular environment. So blockchain is really the first time you can sort of change that relationship, right? And when we saw Bitcoin, at my previous company, Axiom Zen, we started working with crypto back in 2014. And the idea was, well, if people can own their money, why can't they own other digital things? And it took us until 2017 to sort of work on the non-fungible token standard, and then CryptoKitties. But it was this idea that most of the things we love in life are actually non-fungible, right? Your home, your art, your pets, your family, your data. And if you can own your money, then why can't you have full ownership over everything else? And the effect of that is that creators and consumers come closer together. So I love the work that Sandbox is doing with UGC. The effect of that is that fans and brands can connect directly. That's why the NBA is interested in blockchain. That's why folks like Warner Music are interested in blockchain. And then fans can connect directly, right? They can be peer-to-peer in a way that doesn't, instead of being on one digital middleman, one social network like Facebook, CryptoKitties can exist in every single blockchain wallet out there, hundreds of them, maybe thousands at this point. Every single virtual world, from Sandbox to Decentraland to CryptoVoxels, and it's the customer that decides what they want to do with the things that they've paid for. So I think that's really, really powerful. But kind of viewed from a business context, what is gaming today? It's basically outside of blockchain, it's this war for to squeeze as much LTV as you can out of a small group of people, so you can spend as much money as you can acquiring more people, and you just like churn people through that funnel. And you know, there's got to be a better way. And crypto in a sense flips it on its head, right? Because people can sell the stuff they buy. It's much lower acquisition cost to get that sort of first cohort in, and they're often early adopters. They're often people that want to contribute and work with the developer because they benefit financially. They're interested, they're active, they're involved, they evangelize. That creates virality. It further reduces your customer acquisition cost. And because people are in, they have skin in the game. They know they own the thing forever, right? They can give it to their kids if they want to. And they know whether or not the game developer is even around. All of the things they were promised, they've already received. And so they're much more likely, we've seen in CryptoKitties, to come back over and over again. You know, CryptoKitties was a 1-year game. It's now sort of 2.5 years later, or rather, it had 1 year of Generation Zero cats being released, but now it's 2.5 years later. We still have 6,000 MAU on top of Ethereum, a very expensive network to operate on, and people are spending, you know, real money engaging with each other and around these digital assets. So it's quite powerful. The one thing we didn't talk about though is sort of what happens after they're created. And that's the coolest thing for me, in the sense that, you know, today you download an app, you buy digital assets, those digital assets always stay in app. You know, on the blockchain, you buy the digital asset, and then any developer can build apps for that digital asset. And especially as these, you know, more scalable blockchains come online, you'll start being able to support many more developers creating content for many more users. And I think that that's going to be the real sort of, you know, snowball effect. And the moment that crypto as a technology crosses the chasm, not just crypto gaming, but crypto, because, you know, cryptocurrencies have been around for 11, 12 years. Everyone who's interested in speculating on cryptocurrencies is already speculating on cryptocurrencies. We got to give a different reason for people to engage with decentralization, because I think we're all here because we believe it's bigger than just sort of ticker symbols on a you know, on a cryptocurrency exchange. So that's my piece.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. It's a fantastic take from both of you around. You know, you both kind of alluded to it there, whereas Ran, you know, what the current gaming industry is about increasing the LTV and kind of using that to get more gamers, and then kind of completely kind of spin that funnel around and get, you know, this perpetual cycle going, right? Where with this new computing platform, we can kind of flip this model on its head, and just share the pie a bit more, right? Where you kind of you're aligning incentives, and you're creating like real value here that everyone can kind of participate in, right? And one example there is, like you say, with CryptoKitties, how, you know, it's still around and people still to this day are using it, you know, playing around with it, because there's, you know, it's not like a regular game where you're playing it and you know, you occasionally buy some in-game items and then that's it. You know, you have real stake and real ownership in this community, right? Which is pretty cool. And that kind of leads me on to my next question, which is around you know, I was kind of researching up before we had this conversation, and there was a really cool A16Z talk that I came across, and you know, at the end of the talk, the chap was talking about, you know, how the future could be around, you know, there's a particular game, and then you have, let's say for example, in-game eBay where you can trade skins, or an in-game Etsy where you can have a creative that can make really cool skins and sell them to gamers in a game. Or you can have an in-game TaskRabbit where you can essentially hire another player to help you achieve a particular thing in a game. You know, we've all kind of alluded to it here, in terms of like the extensibility of games and how you can create this real economy around them, which I think is a fascinating idea. What do you guys think is missing from where we are right now to get to that utopia? What kind of tech is missing? What are the missing blocks that you think we need to make this a reality? And this is free for anyone to jump into.
I mean, you know, I can go first, given that it's what I think we've been working on for what feels like a decade, but has only really been a year and a half. And it's not just scale, right? Everybody talks about scale and throughput and speed and transactions per second, but of course you need that. And you need to bring costs down to a level that allows free to play, that allows people to try before they buy, because that's just what we as humans expect now from digital worlds. So that's important. But the user experience, I feel, is by far the most important, because almost every crypto application to date has said, hey, welcome, I'm a crypto application, buy crypto to engage with me. And that's, I think, the absolute wrong way to put it, right? That's like going to Amazon and have Amazon say, hey, I'm an SSL application, go download this security package and learn about sort of digital certificates in order to buy something, buy a book from me. And I think that's why games are powerful, right? Because there's a point to it, and it's the technology is just the enabler of the vision that the creative director wants to sort of give to her audience. So yeah, I think the user experience is really important, and letting people experience these things rather than sort of spelling them out for them, making the payments, all of these things feel familiar, right? Something shouldn't take 2 minutes. If it does, you should tell me what the hell's going on, and your error messages, et cetera. But which brings us to the third thing, which is developer experience. Because you can look at Ethereum and say, oh, crypto sucks because no one's built usable applications. But the reality is it's very, very hard to do things like, do the things that you provide the kind of user experience that I think mainstream consumers expect, on top of a platform that wasn't built to enable consumer applications as its sort of core purpose. And so Abel, you and I talked about this briefly on your podcast, but how do you do without the protocol allowing things like human readable security, where the wallet needs to understand what am I asking permissions for to my user? You just can't do that. And so how do you bridge that gap as a developer? We built Dapper Wallet, still the biggest, most popular smart contract wallet on Ethereum, to try to solve the gas fee problem, right? So we have subscriptions for gas where you can buy transaction passes, or if you're part of our partner network, we just pay the gas, kind of like Amazon Prime. But it's just nuts, because gas is such an unpredictable thing. The model, the way it's set up, where people are bidding to get ahead of each other, the unpredictability of me not even knowing, is my transaction going to go through or not? It's just going to sit there in the mempool forever. How do you build around that as a developer? It's very challenging. And so I think it's all three things, scale, which a lot of people are working on, user experience, which a fair number of people are working on, and the developer experience to build usable applications, which I feel like nobody's working on, because everyone that's building developer tools is building developer tools and not sort of trying to use those developer tools. So I don't know, Sebastian, you probably have a more impartial view on this. So I'm curious to hear your perspective as someone building great usable applications, but
I agree with you to some extent. Like, I think I would maybe reorder those things. Like, for me, at the very first is what is the user experience you're providing with your application or your game? Not the user experience of the onboarding till the wallet, but more like, we are in an industry, gaming, where it's mostly about entertainment. So we have the chance to build products that should be fun, that should attract players to actually enter your game, engage with them. And the moment where the players once they see this nice trailer and say, oh, this is great, this is the game I want to play, I want to start spending hours into this, delving into that, and potentially make a decision of buying a content, whether it's centralized via in-app purchase or decentralized via, going through all the blockchain, NFTs, and all the steps there. And the moment of time where I'm convinced by the gameplay, it's fun, I want to start engaging further, spending potentially, should be potentially at a later stage of the experience, not necessarily the first thing that you have to do to enter into the game. And that's something important, that sometimes, because for many reasons, people have tend to focus only on the technology rather than on build what is the product, what is the value proposition I'm giving to my users. They tend to forget about that. Let's build a great game first, and then think like how more naturally the users will want to go through the more difficult steps, because they are already engaged and they want to consume the experience with you. This is something we are seeing with Sandbox, and now There's really a strong demand. Even though Sandbox is not fully launched, we have been running pre-sale of NFTs, which is something also very powerful to create community of users. Like it enables you to onboard users as part of your community, make them ambassador, make them by stakeholders of the success of your project, even before the project is actually fully launched to the public. And because they are so excited about what we are doing, that some of them have gone through the extent of going to understand what is a wallet, running through the transaction, and sometimes, unfortunately, having to face some of the issues you described, like high gas fees and racing conditions for who will get the land first, specifically when those have been selling in just a couple of minutes. But there's also something I wanted to bring, as the game developer, sometimes you cannot reinvent all the wheel and everything in the ecosystem all by yourself. So this is really amazing that over the past 2 years, 2.5 years, even though we are in a quite young industry, there's been actors that have worked hard and focused on improving some of the chaining and the tool sets for us developers to build a better user experience. And indeed, by you, Dapper Lab, you've developed this Dapper Wallet, which is much more user-friendly than what the other solution on the market have been proposing to date. And now you're focusing also on offering a blockchain solution that's going to solve some of the solutions that we are facing as developers. So it's great that we can also rely on partners that decided to focus on that part, so we can just focus on the other part, the fun. So that's to me like essentially what game companies the majority of game companies, they don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel every time. They just need to trust a strong developer ecosystem and use good solution for that.
I completely agree with both your viewpoints on this, and I think you're totally right. And I don't want to just kind of limit this to the world of gaming, but I would actually bring this one level higher and just say any application that's using this novel technology that is blockchain should think about application first, and then think about tech as a means to getting to that thing. Right? In gaming, it's like, how can I create the best game possible, and how can I use the unique aspects of this tech to make that best game? Not the other way around, is how can I kind of make this awesome piece of tech and then kind of try to bring people to make cool games with it. It should be, like you guys say, the other way around, where it's like, how can I build the best thing and kind of focus on that. And I love that mindset, and it's definitely shines through in both of what you guys are doing and kind of your sentiment here, which is awesome. I want to kind of switch back into the world of economies and business models and all of this cool stuff, because I was again, like I said, I was doing some research before we had this conversation, and I was like looking up on, if I'm a person right now in the world of gaming, how can I make money? How can I make a living by doing what I love, which is, actually participating in different communities, right? So I broke it down into 3 things, right? So first is you make the game. Obviously, you're a game developer. You work really hard. You make some fantastic game. You put it out there, and then if it's a hit, congratulations, you have a business. If it's not, you crack on and you make another game and you try to make that hit, right? The second thing is esports, right? Being an esports player or a professional player within a game, that is like a really common thing that's coming up now. I think esports is kind of growing in an exponential rate, and at some point will kind of be at the level as any other sport and be respected as such. And then there's YouTubers and streamers, right? I'm thinking like Ninja, PewDiePie, those kind of folks. But if you kind of go through all of those options to make money, I spoke about how it's really hard to make games and make them a hit. Esports teams, I found out that, League of Legends has 100 million active users, right? That's a lot. But it's only 100, it's under 1,000 players that are actually pro in the game, which is like 0.001%, which is crazy, which shows you that, in some cases it's harder to be a pro in these games than it is to be a pro in an actual sport, American football, soccer, you name it, right? And then, for example, YouTubers are streamers, right? There's 3 million active streamers per month on Twitch, but only 10K are on the partner program. That's where they actually get to make money, right? that's what it looks like right now for the world of gaming. Right, there's not that many opportunities to make money, and I wonder, how we're gonna enable this. We touched on this earlier in the conversation, but three things I came across that are interesting is digital ownership, digital scarcity, provenance, and these new economic markets, right? So my question around this particular topic is, as well as digital ownership and digital scarcity, provenance, and these new economic markets, how else do you think will enable more people in the gaming communities to be able to make a living by partaking in these new kind of gaming communities of the future? And that's for anyone to take.
Maybe I can start on this one. So more specifically to Sandbox, it's we can easily draw a comparison with virtual worlds. And in virtual worlds, like many comes to mind, like Second Life, World of Warcraft, or even games like you mentioned, League of Legends to some extent, more recently Animal Crossing. In all those virtual worlds where there's like large amount of players we've seen like quite organically new business, new economies develop outside of what the developer of those games originally intended to. Like we've seen people starting to make guild, organize prize competition. We've seen people starting to trade the virtual goods that they earn inside those games and using, because those are centralized games, not on a blockchain, they were using, I would say, like gray or black market where they could switch accounts or try to trade in a way that sometimes the developers have allowed via the marketplace, sometimes via the other way that's not been allowed. And unfortunately, what the story has told us with all those games is that usually the centralized developers who are operating those virtual worlds are quite against enabling new opportunity for their users, for their members to earn money in ways that they didn't design. So it goes against the term of service, and what is the most stupid reaction in the world they would do is they would go and they would chase after the users who are doing that to try to punish them, to remove their license, to take off all their content creation or items. And I'm not inventing it. Like if you start Googling, you can see all those stories about users who lost their account, etc. And I think it's massively stupid decision because you have like people who naturally figure out a new way to monetize, to earn from an economic system, from a system that, and instead of like working smartly to make it thrive, enable it, and potentially see how big the potential could be, like they always try to shut it down and control everything. So that is a major paradigm shift that play to earn is also that it's the new business model that characterize what the situation where players, instead of just spending in the game, are actually also spending time to actually try to earn something, usually a financial interest. That's what I've been describing. And I think we should specifically decentralized games and decentralized virtual worlds should embrace and enable even further. So that's what we're working with in Sandbox, putting in place some sort of circular economy that enables on one side, the users who want to build stuff and spend to acquire that stuff from other users who are willing to give something else of value in exchange, like their time, for example, to monetize and trade the NFTs or other resources and tokens in the platform. So all of them are incentivized in a way to participate in the platform and for their own interest. So play to earn, essentially, it's an emergent business model. I'm not saying that it will shut down or kill free-to-play or even premium. Like those two will still largely exist, but there is an alternative that exists. This alternative is growing. So in front of games like Minecraft, that's Roblox, than the large MMO, players can also begin earning professionally or not. We don't need to be like a pro gamer only to win and to earn thanks to decentralized gaming and blockchain technology.
Yeah, I agree with that perspective. I just wanted to, I mean, the only kind of caveat or the only thing I would add to it is I wouldn't be too hard on the centralized game companies for sort of not adopting an open economy or trying to put these capital controls is really what they are, right? If you think in a macroeconomic context. is that their economies will break if they allow open if they release the capital controls. And what Sebastian's talking about isn't one or two people. It's billions of dollars every year. Lots of it being I think it's over 30% that is subject to fraud and whatnot. So it's despite the high level of fraud, people still try to go through these hoops. So people, the gamers want to do it. The game companies don't know how to enable them. And I think that's the paradigm shift that I agree we're sort of going through. What we found, especially in terms of sort of helping established gaming companies wrap their head around it, is you got to think about the game design in a different way. And play to earn, the immediate implication is that I'm going to play a free-to-play game and I'm going to earn things of monetary value. And you can imagine how that can get kind of unwieldy quickly, right? Like if I can just tap on a button and get money, then what's stopping me from having 1,000 phones in parallel, tapping on buttons, earning money? So I like to think about it. You guys really alluded to this, but the framework I use is it's got to be a value exchange. You got to be doing something that's valuable to someone else in the virtual economy. And so they got to be willing to pay for it, whether pay for it through sitting on their assets, whether pay for it through purchasing them off of you, whether pay for it through other means of value exchange. So I guess some examples are just resellers in NFT economies, right? We talked about the pre-sales. Resellers will come in, buy a bunch of stuff, and then help the community understand, hey, how to complete sets, what's the sort of how does the game even work, and they provide that sort of liquidity both in terms of financial and in terms of sort of knowledge and learnings and whatnot. In CryptoKitties, we have auto birthers where, to be kind of decentralized, we publish a thing on the blockchain and provide an incentive for others to claim the birthing revenue. We do it ourselves as well, but we have a network of others to sort of show that even if Dapper Lab goes away, there's a incentive for people to continue birthing cats, because on Ethereum, and this is another developer experience thing, smart contracts can't just autonomously do things. They need to be called and told and sort of been given a command in order to act. I guess we already talked about UGC artists, right? If I create content that someone else wants and they pay me, well, that's a great way to play to earn. If I curate content for somebody else, Avastars is a really cool project on Ethereum where every single avatar is on chain, but there's so many different combinations. So people take the time to just go through, figure out the really cool looking ones. So they're curating content. They pay the on-chain fee to actually mint the thing, and then they can sell it on OpenSea, et cetera. And so in that way, the curator is making money by providing a service, curation, right? And in the case of esports, is entertainment. You're doing something that someone else values, and they support you. But in today's esports environment, you got to be big enough where you have advertising and you have to have that sort of clout, right? Endorsements, that's sort of the business model. Whereas on crypto, it can be just direct peer-to-peer. I like the way you play. You're a little bit better than me. You teach me how to get better. I support you either buying your collectibles because I believe in you're going to be a big star in the future. So I want to be part of your community. And sort of it becomes kind of Patreon exponential. And so those are the kinds of projects I get super excited about, like other than games as well, is, things that are adjacent, but that can also just be, it's not just in a virtual world. It can then also apply to your friend groups and the causes you care about, the companies you choose to work with, all of this stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's a future I get excited about, not just in the gaming space, but just in every kind of aspect you can possibly imagine, right? This technology allows for, ownership to be easily distributed and given out and managed. And that can open up so much more economic opportunity. And, it's a fascinating conversation to have. And, I'm excited to see what this looks like in the future. So I realize we're up at the 30-minute mark, and I just want to give a shout out to the folks in the chat. So if you have any questions, just make sure to pop the questions in the chat, and we'll be able to answer them as we kind of see them as we go on. So that's the halfway mark, but I'm going to continue asking questions in the show. So one question I do have is around, I guess we kind of alluded to it earlier on where we spoke about, what are the kind of limitations, but past that conversation, you know, we discussed all these really amazing things that can happen if we enable these new technologies and what they can do for ownership and you know, different incentive alignments and stuff like that within these communities, right? Within the near horizon, what are you guys like really excited about? Like, what do you think, if anyone in the audience, if you were to point anyone in the audience right now to go check out this project or to go check out this idea around how to empower gaming communities in the future, what would that be? Like, what would you say? Oh, go check that out. Maybe we start off with Sebastian and then we go to Rohan.
Well, I think with just the NFTs, we have surfaced the first layer of what is possible to do with them. Essentially, like, yes, I can own them. Maybe I can participate in creating them and give them utility either in one game or one platform, for example, the Sandbox and its game maker, but potentially any other developer can use them. And interoperability is one of the nearest promised use case that should give more value to each of those game assets, allow the players to reuse them, potentially increase the value by playing across different games. It's really exciting. I think NFTs beyond that also enable more things, like by essentially they can work as access pass to specific game or entering specific DAOs, for example, decentralized organization, where you can enter a specific group of people by proving that you own those different digital asset and in a way identify yourself that way. We've seen things like fractional ownership, which I think can become also interesting, and specifically as some NFTs are large value, like 5 figures, 6 figures. So they become not necessarily accessible to a single individual, but they could be owned by a group of people who participate and then potentially can rent it or can use it in a way and split the dividends from by leveraging this NFT into different games and the earnings it will generate. More immediately, there's things happening already within the Sandbox virtual world where we've been empowering literally hundreds of artists to create those 3D voxel assets and monetize them through our marketplace. And now we're starting to see a new generation of artists who are starting to think, I'm going to create this sort of like digital fashion where it's like skins or outfits for avatars. And I not only want this skin or outfit for an avatar in Sandbox, but I want it to work as well in Crypto Voxel, Somnium Space, Decentraland, and potentially all the other virtual worlds on the blockchain. And I find this idea really exciting, very compelling, that we can have people who are going to work on demand or selling their art, selling their craft, and knowing that this content can be used across across several actual live platforms by many users. I've seen this not only for skins and outfit, I'm now seeing it with, for example, 3D cars. So there's a company called Crypto Motors that does that. And it's just the surface. Like, we're just only now beginning to imagine more ways to monetize content, more ways to build services on top of these NFTs and our platform. I can literally imagine giving my NFTs to another player who will like train them for me and level them up and potentially earn some money on my behalf. Like, just really we had the keys, and now we only need like people to come with creative ideas to leverage those content and provide extra value service based on potential yield, potential revenue incentive behind.
Yeah, that's a really great answer. I'll give maybe a quick sort of 6-step guide to what I think is super interesting in NFTs and crypto. And they're not necessarily sort of value judgments on the steps, but I would start with, pure collectibles. So CryptoPunks is the original. Crypto art is, I think, just tearing right now, and a very cool sort of burgeoning community to look at in Ethereum. Level 2 or stage 2 is sort of collectible games. CryptoKitties is my favorite for obvious reasons, but there are some others that are really fun. Step 3 for us has been collectibles, sort of a collectible outer loop, but a mainstream friendly inner loop. And really all mobile games are this, right? That you come in, you do something that's sort of more active, and then your brain is working on sort of the strategy of the outer loop and the pieces the work you need to do to kind of progress. That's kind of what we're doing with NBA Top Shot, and it's by the time I think this will be live, you should be able to go on NBA Top Shot, sign up, and then with reasonably quickly get in. We're still in the private stage, but it's going really, really well. And then I think there's things like Sandbox and sort of where you're well, actually, before you go to the metaverse, there's very extensible. There's a category that I think hasn't been explored properly yet. Cheese Wizards were sort of our first attempt at doing it, but because of the difficulties of Ethereum, we couldn't really get there. And it's the idea of a fully on-chain game where it's the assets, the gameplay, everything is extensible at the smart contract level. And that's what we're hoping to achieve with CryptoKitties on Flow. So over the next few weeks, we'll be showing folks the smart contracts and showing that, look, this is a way for an ecosystem to emerge at the smart contract level, and of course, sort of at higher levels with user-generated content, et cetera. And then the ultimate expression is, I think, sort of that metaverse world, right, where anybody can come create anything, interact with anybody else in a purely open world. Obviously, the metaverses of today are great in terms of Ethereum, are a huge improvement on what Minecraft and all of these things are giving us in terms of at least ownership or control of the player. But I think there's again, with sort of high throughput blockchains and more tools for developers, I think we can even take that to the next level and have worlds where every single action, every single atom is available for anybody to build on, to contribute to derive value from. And that's what I get super, super excited about.
That's awesome. And I completely agree. And I like the kind of categorization you did there and kind of talking through some of the things you're excited about. So sticking on this very positive note and kind of what we're kind of excited about, and you kind of alluded to it there with NBA Top Shot, which is a really cool project that hopefully should be out by the time this is out. I would love for you guys to maybe talk about some, specific projects like Roham just did around your particular companies in terms of what you're excited about for the next couple of months, maybe a year, and things you're currently working on within the world of gaming that you think people should know about. This is your opportunity to kind of tell the world about all the cool stuff you're excited about specific to your project in the next couple of months. So again, we go Sebastian and then we go to Roham.
Well, of course, I'm going to preach for my own house first. So I'm really excited about Sandbox, finally coming out of markets this year. We'll have the public beta for players by December 2020. We have already released the alpha version of our game maker, and every day, every morning when I wake up, I can see all the amazing content, amazing world that's been made by this exciting community of creators. And this really, I'm really thrilled to see all this creativity, all of this that they are building and soon will be playable by 1,000 and more users. That's really exciting. I guess also I'm pretty excited by the fact that we've now sold for over $1 million worth of lands, and there's still a lot of demand around it. Thank you so much to all our landowners. They are part of our community. They are our best ambassadors and supporters. So it's amazing to be in that space and having such a large community supporting it as well. I'm excited by all the partners we have, including Dapper Lab, CryptoKitties, big brands like Atari, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Shaun the Sheep, and soon we'll announce also larger game companies who are going to build the first experience on Sandbox platform. So all of that is coming really soon, and we'll be able to see that. Now, on the other project that's coming to market, I'm also really excited about. I think 2020 and 2021 are going to be excellent year for gaming, blockchain gaming, specifically as we have great looking games that use blockchain technologies that finally coming in beta to the market. So by them, obviously, I'm thinking about Gods Unchained, for example. I'm speaking about Skywaver by Horizon Games or Blankos by Mythical Games. Those are games that well, when you just look at the trailer, when you see them, you want to play them. Like they by any definition, any standards, they are on par with what traditional PC or mobile game look like in 2020, and you like to play them. So that's exciting. I'm also very excited, of course. I've been always early tester in all the Dapper Lab products, from CryptoKitties, from Cheese Wizard. I bought among the first wizard there, and I'm surprised I'm not yet testing NBA Top Shot, even though I'm keep hearing here and there that everything is going so well with the first test. So I will write Roam right after, and I say, oh wow, look, I want to try out. And yeah, in general, I'm also the president of the Blockchain Game Alliance, which gives me the chance to have an overview of what all actors in the ecosystem are building and when they are going to launch their product. So even though I cannot name all of them, it's quite exciting to see the quality of the project behind, and also the interest of traditional games company. Like we have members like Atari, Square Enix, we have AMD, Ubisoft, etc., which shows there's a strong interest from even larger gaming companies to understand blockchain, to promote blockchain, and potentially to integrate blockchain as well as part of their future games.
That is fantastic and a very exciting future to look forward to, my friend. And I wish you all the best of luck with all the product launches and the collaborations you'll be having in the future. That's awesome. Roham, it's up to you, man.
Well, I'm very excited about Sandbox too, so I better get my early invite. And your NBA invite's coming, Sebastian. We've just been it's a good problem to have, but we've been selling out and servers melting down, even with the little group that we let in first. So your invite's coming. On our end, I mean, the biggest thing I'm excited about is just getting people to come in and check out what we built. We created Flow completely from the ground up, new blockchain, new architecture, a new programming language, lots of little changes that should feel very natural to most developers. To Ethereum developers, it should feel like, things that you felt were missing are actually there. We built Cadence, a new programming language, inspired by linear types and sort of trying to make smart contract writing much simpler, much easier, much safer, much more secure. So whether you have tried Solidity or you thought smart contract development was this super complicated thing that nobody can do, go to play.onflow.org and start playing around with the playground. I think it'll immediately be clear that holy, this is much simpler. We built a payments and on-ramps ecosystem. Not just our own products, but with some fantastic partners that I think are going to make life for developers a lot easier. And it's the applications that people just want to, we built them as sort of flagship things that we want to demonstrate what's possible on our platforms. Is by no means sort of everything that's going to be on the platform, but it's kind of a guarantee that, look, we're bringing the users, you, the developers, come build the apps. The partners that are public are, NBA, UFC, Warner Music, Ubisoft as well, and some big fish we haven't announced yet. But the criteria for us is just people that want to build something that's real and authentic to their brand, but also to crypto and that the promise of decentralization long term. And just want to kind of add like one, I guess, piece of advice or sort of the one learning I've had from from CryptoKitties to now is that short term, the one thing you shouldn't compromise on is user experience, and I think Sebastian hit the nail on the head there. But long term, the thing you don't want to compromise on is decentralization and openness, because otherwise, why are you doing this in the first place? So I think like if I can give that advice to folks building on Flow, those are the kinds of folks that we're also trying to guide around. Look, first you got to build something that people want. It's got to be sustainable. And then you sort of turn the keys over to the community. And I'm really excited about the teams that are doing that, even on Ethereum and in DeFi. And it's really just cool to see the whole space evolve.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And just to kind of echo some of the things you said there, anyone who hasn't tried playing around with the Flow Playground or the Cadence programming language, after I did the interview with Roham, I went to check it out and it is insane. Like I've written smart contracts in Solidity, and I've also tried it with Flow, using the Flow Playground and Cadence. Way easier. So definitely go check that out. That's awesome. I'm interested to hear more about this on-ramp as well that you mentioned. That was the first time I heard about that, and I'm quite keen to hear more about that. That sounds like a pretty cool thing that you guys are working on, and definitely needed in the ecosystem. But I am getting a message saying that the time is up. I would honestly love to continue chatting with you guys. I think you're both fantastic and doing amazing work in the space. And, you know, I look forward to seeing how your projects develop. But for now, I want to say a big thank you to both of you for coming to the show and sharing all your cool stuff around all the cool projects and your ideas in the space. So big shout out to you, both of you guys.
Yeah, thank you for having us.